Welcome to the next video of Cascadeur Mocap cleanup course. In the previous steps, we almost prepared the scene for the unbaking. However, we stopped once we've noticed moments like this in my Mocap. This is not a widespread issue, so it is likely you're not going to encounter similar situations. However, if you are experiencing certain issues, this video is for you. Today, you will learn what the direction controllers are, what the twists are, how to add and edit twists in the rig mode, how to fix twisted meshes in the arms and the legs of the character, and how to change the controller's colors. Like this video and let's get started. Direction controllers can be found in the point controller mode. Here they are. They are located at the folds of the limbs, such as elbows and knees. Moving these controllers helps control the direction of the bend. It is very easy to see when the limb is already slightly bent. These controllers are created automatically with the rig, and there are no separate joints for these controllers. Therefore, when you apply animations to a rigged character, the position of those controllers is also determined automatically based on the bend of the elbow or knee. But sometimes automation fails. For example, in keys where arms and legs of the character were completely straight, the directional controllers might be wrong. In this case, the directional controllers might end up on the opposite side. Sometimes the controller might jump back and forth, and it's exactly what we see in our scene. Now let me tell you more about the twists. Twists are special controllers that are normally located in the character's arms and legs. You can see them in the box controllers mode. Some characters don't have twists altogether, while other characters can have a lot of them. In my case, there are 3 twist controllers in the character's arm. For comparison, there are 4 twists in this Unreal Engine 5 character. They make meshes look nicer when rotating the limbs. As you can see, when I'm turning the palm, the 2 twist controllers between the palm and the elbow are automatically adjusted. Please note they also rotate with different force. All of this is adjustable during the rig creation. In Quick Rigging tool, there are 2 slots for arm twists, and you can manually add more if needed. Let me show you how using my character as an example. Here I have a forearm twist. I select the twist joint. Now I need to create a box controller for this joint. Please make sure you select only box controller option. Here you can select the size of the future element. For example, let's keep it at 4. Click Add button. A box has appeared around the joint, but it is quite small. I'm going to undo the previous action and select a bigger value here. Now let's create the box again. As you can see, it's now much larger and it's easier to work with. So now we have the box controller and we need to turn it into a twist. To do this, I need to select the box I just created and also select the joint that will trigger its rotation. To select multiple elements, hold down the Shift key. I'm selecting the palm joint. This means that when the palm is rotated, the twist box will also automatically rotate slightly. Now I open the main actions menu. Here, I need to select the rotation axis. It's this one in my case. And the red axis is X-axis. Here, you can set the rotation strength. I think I'll try 0.5 for now. If I find that it's not enough, I can adjust this later as well. And now I'm creating a twist. Sometimes selecting a twist joint can be tricky. In here, I simply missed the right one and instead select a different object. And to make it easier to work with, I suggest you go to the viewing mode and edit the objects that are selectable. I'll remove the rigid bodies from here, so now I won't accidentally select them when I want to select joints instead. Here is another thing to mention. As you can see, now I have twists created for one hand, and for the other one I can simply mirror the rig elements. To do this, I'll first need to delete the old rig elements. And then I'll need to mirror the rig elements for these joints. Let's go to the Mirroring tab. In this window, you need to enter the sides names. In this rig, the right side is going to be marked with letter R, and the left side is going to be marked with the letter L. Now you can press Create Mirror Object. After this step, let's switch to animation mode and take a look at our rig. You can now see the twist boxes. And right now they look exactly like regular boxes. But if you go to the Object Properties, you can find an additional tab with twist settings. This is the box to change the twist strength, and setting it to 0 will disable the twist altogether. By the way, for convenience, I can change the color of the twist boxes to be able to distinguish them from regular ones. You can find the Use Color option in Object Properties. Once this option is enabled, you can specify a color by entering a number in the respective box. The higher the number, the brighter the corresponding color will be. The highest possible value is 255. By combining red, green, and blue here, you can create other colors. Since I've made some changes to this rig that I made previously, I need to save it with all the new changes. I prefer to save such rig variations under a new name. For example, I add a letter to the title number so I can quickly navigate my scenes. I'd love to hear more about your systems for naming and organizing scenes. And this is how I organize mine. Since the rig has been changed, I'll also need to change the animation scenes. For example, here's my prepared section from a large animation that we made in the previous step. To transfer this animation to the new rig, I can simply copy it. When copying, please make sure you choose all the joints, since joints are the base that always remains. Even if controllers were not created for some joints, the animation will still be copied. As you can see, I've copied the animation to the new rig. Now I can add the rest of the scene objects. And then I can save the scene under a new name. This way, by looking at the scene name, I can immediately understand which rig version is used there. For example, right now I have several scenes with the same animation on different rig versions. Alternatively, instead of copying the animation, you could have exported the animation from the scene with the prepared piece and then imported into the scene with a new rig. And finally, another option would have been to export the rig itself. To use this option, go to the rig mode, and here you can find the button for exporting the rig. Now I open the animation scene. I switch to the rigging mode, delete the old rig, and import the saved one. And when I now switch back to animation mode, I get the animation on the new rig. Time to save the scene under a new name. With all this, we got a little distracted from the main topic of the video. Let's get back to twists and directional controllers. I've prepared this scene for a visual demonstration of how twists and directional controllers can break. You can find the scene in the attached video files. For this demonstration, the scene contains several keys. The first key is fine, but the second key has a problem. And I will demonstrate how you can fix such problems. So, the very first thing we need to do is create separate tracks for the twists and directional controllers. This way, we'll isolate them from the rest of the animation and we'll be able to work with them separately. To create a track, simply select an object and click this button. The new track will contain all the objects selected in the viewport. You can move the newly created tracks, for example, into the character's arm folder. Or you can put them in a separate folder. This step is entirely up to you. I will also create separate tracks for each twist. By the way, to rename a track or folder, right-click on the track name. This is a simple example, and it wasn't necessary to create separate tracks, but in a more complex animation, this will be very helpful. Time to look at the issues we're having with this animation. Let's take a look at this. We clearly see some mesh issues. Let's switch to point controller mode. Here, I'm looking at the elbow direction controller. As you can see, the controller is in the front, and this is clearly not its typical position. So before doing anything else, let's simply rotate the elbow back. And as we can see, this has already fixed the situation. On to the next issue. Here, we see the broken elbow direction controller again. Let's move it to the correct position. However, this time, this didn't solve the problem. We can still see something strange happening with the mesh. And this means the issue is with the twist. I'm switching to the box controllers mode. We will need to manually rotate the twist. But the most important rule when working with twists is to always be in local manipulator mode. In this mode, the manipulator's axis will precisely correspond to the twist's axis. This will allow you to easily rotate the twist without deforming the mesh. If the manipulator is in global mode, you might rotate the twist along the wrong axis, which can shift the twist joint, which is something you definitely should never do. Therefore, we should select local mode, and now we will be able to rotate the twist while monitoring how it affects the character mesh. This looks much better. Sometimes it can be very hard to understand how a twist should be rotated. So sometimes its position can simply be copied locally from the key where it's definitely rotated correctly. In my example, the problem was only with these two twists. Moving forward, there is clearly an issue with the twist near the palm in this case. As we can see, the elbow's direction controller is facing the correct way and doesn't really affect this part of the mesh. Therefore, I suggest let's simply go to the key where everything is fine, copy the twist position from this key and paste it into the key with an issue. All fixed. Now, let's see what the problem might look like in a baked animation. Here, everything is fine in the keys, but between the keys, we see the twist moving, which effectively is ruining our mesh. Next crucial step is to open the tracks menu and find the specific track for this twist. If you select an object in the viewport, the corresponding track in the timeline will also be selected. Once we've identified the track, we can simply delete all the keys where the unnecessary twist movement is happening. You can either leave the step interpolation or use a Bezier clamped interpolation. And now our twist problem is gone. In this example, you can fix the rest of the twists in the same way. A quick tip here: rotation of objects can be easily tracked using the manipulator arrows in local mode. If you increase the manipulator size, even small rotations will be clearly visible. And finally, the last example. This is a demonstration of how an adjacent key can influence the behavior of a twist. The entire twist movement in this interval occurs due to the difference in the positions of these keys. So what I'm going to do is to simply remove one of them. And this is how you can work with twists in the limbs. And now it's time for us to move on to a real scene with a mocap and try to apply all the things we've just learned. To start, I limit myself to a small section to work with. Let's say the first 100 frames. I also need to create separate tracks for the directional controllers and for the twists. I can create a separate folder for them, or better yet, I'll place them directly in the character's arm folder. First thing we need to do is check the elbow directional controller. As you can see, not only it's facing the wrong direction, but it's also jumping around in the animation. We need to find the frame where the elbow is facing in the right direction. For example, here, it seems to look quite natural. And we can copy the elbow position from here. Alternatively, we could go to an empty scene with our character and try setting a similar pose to see how the directional controllers behave. Here we can see that the direction controller will end up somewhere behind the character's back. And in the very first key, the elbow already doesn't look right. Let's fix it. To do this, I have options. I can move it manually, or I can copy the elbow position in local mode from a key where everything's fine. Or I can even copy it from a scene with a complete character. Now in this key, the elbow is positioned correctly. And the next key where the elbow is positioned correctly is this one. Now I can delete all the keys between them and set interpolation, for example, Bezier clamped. As you can see, the elbow is no longer jumping around, but now there is an issue with the twists. I can see that the shoulder is twisted in this animation. But at this point, the shoulder seems to be in the correct position already. If you look at the very first key, that's where the shoulder is already broken. I can copy the key position from here. Or, since the pose is very similar, I can copy the position of all these boxes in local mode. Now it looks fine to me. I'm working on the track with this twist, and now I can delete all the keys between the correct positions. And the shoulder stopped rotating. I'll do the same thing for the other twists. I'll keep doing the same thing moving further through the animation. Like here, when I once again see a twist in the elbow direction controller. I find the keys with the correct controller position and delete the incorrect keys between the correct positions. I highly recommend tracking the trajectory of the elbow direction controller. As a quick reminder, to track the trajectory, you need to select the object in the viewport and select a frame interval on the timeline. Here in the trajectory, we see a large gap between two adjacent keys. Such gaps in animation often look like jolting movements. To remove these sporadic movements, you can delete some of the keys where the issue occurs. This will smooth out the trajectory. In this way, I continue working through the entire animation. I'm cleaning up those overspins and jolting movements in the directional controllers. As you've noticed, this is a pretty repetitive process, so once you get the hang of it, the cleaning doesn't take very long. In the end, we get an animation with clean twists, no overspins, and it's ready for unbaking. Most importantly, don't forget to save your scene after the cleanup. I prefer to save each scene as a separate file with a new sequential number. And that's all for now. See you in the next video.